On October 23, 1983, a single morning in Beirut, Lebanon, changes the lives of hundreds and leaves a mark on U.S. military history. 2 truck bombings strike buildings housing U.S. and French troops, killing nearly 300 service members and leaving the city shaken. It is the deadliest attack against U.S. Marines since World War II, and a pivotal moment in the history of modern terrorism. But how did this happen? Who was responsible? And why were the troops in Beirut in the first place? Well, in 1982, Lebanon was in the midst of a brutal civil war. The country had become a battleground for competing militias, foreign armies, and religious factions. To stabilize the region, a multinational peacekeeping force was deployed, including American, British, French, and Italian troops. The U.S. Marines' mission was clear: help bring peace to a city divided by chaos. They were told they were there to keep the peace, not to fight. But Beirut was far from peaceful. Local militias viewed foreign troops as occupiers rather than peacekeepers. Attacks and warnings against the Marines grew more frequent throughout 1983. In April, a truck packed with explosives drove into the U.S. Embassy in Beirut, killing 63 people, including 17 Americans. It was one of the first major terrorist attacks against a U.S. facility overseas. 6 months later, on Sunday, October 23rd, the peacekeeping mission turned into a nightmare. At 6:22 a.m., a yellow Mercedes truck driven by an Iranian national headed toward the U.S. Marine barracks at the Beirut International Airport. After twice circling the building, it crashed through the gate, barreled past the guard posts, and careened straight into the lobby of the 4-story building where some of the men were sleeping. Inside the truck was the equivalent of 12,000 pounds of TNT. It was the largest non-nuclear explosion since World War II. The blast flattened the entire building in seconds. 241 American service members were killed, 220 of them Marines. Another 112 Americans were wounded. It was the deadliest single-day loss for the U.S. Marine Corps since the Battle of Iwo Jima in 1945. In another part of the city, a second truck bomb exploded at the French paratrooper headquarters, killing 58. The 2 attacks, coordinated and devastating, happened just minutes apart. U.S. President Ronald Reagan addressed the media that day.
I know there are no words that can express our sorrow and grief over the loss of those splendid young men and the injury to so many others. I know there are no words also that can ease the burden of grief for the families of those young men.
An Iran-backed terrorist group that called itself Islamic Jihad claimed responsibility for the attacks. The group was a precursor to Lebanese militant organization Hezbollah. Its goal was to drive Western forces out of Lebanon, and it worked. By February 1984, U.S. forces withdrew from Beirut, ending their peacekeeping mission. The French also withdrew early in 1984. The 1983 Beirut Barracks Bombing changed military policy, intelligence coordination, and counterterrorism in the decades that followed. It also left a lasting scar on those who served, and a warning that even peacekeeping missions can become battlefields. What happened that October morning would reshape how nations define security in an unstable world. Here are other events that happened today in history. In 42 BC, Caesar assassination conspirator Brutus falls on his sword after his defeat at Philippi. In 1641, Phelim O'Neill starts the Irish Rebellion by attempting to seize control of Dublin Castle. In 1925, Johnny Carson, longtime host of NBC's Tonight Show, is born in Corning, Iowa. In 1942, the British launch a successful attack against the Germans at El Alamein, Egypt. In 1998, 16-year-old Britney Spears releases her debut single, Baby One More Time. In 2001, Apple unveils the first version of its iconic iPod at an event in Cupertino, California. In 2002, 50 Chechen rebels storm a theater in Moscow, Russia, taking 700 hostages. And now it's time for our Today in History quiz. What was the age of the first person to ride down Niagara Falls in a barrel? 13, 23, 43, or 63? Liked learning about the Beirut Barracks bombings? Then you'll also enjoy this one about a terrorist bombing in New York City way back in 1920. Tap the screen to keep the story going on Today in History.